Okay, how exciting to be the first team. Hello, and welcome again to Openlab, but also to our presentation. We are fast and curious. The team tackling a mobility challenge given to us by Exploateringskontoret. Thank you for the challenge. So let's start by just introducing ourselves. This is the team. We have Fredrik, specialized in interaction design and user experience. We have Cláudia and Marie, who are specialized in how companies impact society. We have Edgar in software engineering. We have Savithri in communications and healthcare. We have me in communications and, I'm in communications and healthcare. Great communications. And for the first half of our course, we also had a seventh member called Abreu, who is not here right now, so you can't see her, but was specialized in public health. So, what do we have ahead of ourselves? We're going to guide you through a challenge, the challenge that we were given, the insights along the way, and also the possible ideas that we had to finally land in the solution we chose. It's a journey that we did where our understanding of the challenge shifted fundamentally. So let's dive into the challenge. As we said in the beginning, we were given a challenge by Exploateringskontoret, the City Development Department, which is a part of Stockholm Stad. They are responsible for ensuring sustainable community development and Stockholm City's housing and meeting Stockholm City's housing goals. So just to clarify, for the sake of our challenge, Exploateringskontoret is not in charge of things like the public transport system or planning the city roads. Those are run by other entities, but that are closely linked to Exploateringskontoret. So what does that mean for our challenge? This means that our solution needs to be applicable to new housing developments in the whole of the city of Stockholm. So this brings us to the challenge we were given. How might Stockholm Stad design our mobility offerings so that people choose a life without a private car? And just a word that might not be on everybody's lips always, mobility challenge or mobility measure. What is that? Let's clarify. A mobility offering or a mobility measure is a mobility measure, a measure that aims to change how people travel and make it more sustainable and resource efficient. What is that? It could be a bike, it could be an e-scooter, or it could actually just be an SL card. So now, back to the challenge.
Yes. So to approach our challenge, we navigated through the double diamond framework that we heard earlier. And starting off in the empathizing phase, I will try to take you through our understanding of the challenge and then the insights that we got. So all in all, we first needed to understand who was involved and figure out the needs, thoughts, and motivations of the users. So to do that, we conducted around 50 interviews with users, observations, and also distributed a survey with around 400 responses. Then, on the stakeholder side, we also did interviews with various stakeholders that might be involved in our problem. And then, lastly, with our challenge givers, we conducted interviews, did meetings, and also did a brainstorming meeting inspired by the future workshop method. To get insights. So what are the key insights that we got? Let's start with the users. We found out that a major issue is the simple lack of awareness. Many people don't know which mobility measures are out there, and even when services are available, they might not be used because people don't know about it. Then another insight was that life changes are a big opportunity because people rethink how they move when they have a child, when they start a new job, or when they simply move housing. Then, on the stakeholder side, we found out that developers select the mobility measures themselves. So some developers do extensive research on which measures could fit the housing, and others simply don't. And another point was that it is a complex issue, and parking and mobility requires cooperation and planning throughout the process and across different stakeholders. And then moving to the insights from Exploateringskontoret, we found out that one key issue was the communication gap along the entire process, from planning through the development, construction, to the point where residents move in. And another issue are bottlenecks, lack of resources, or conflicting interests that place our challenge giver in a much bigger challenge than just thinking about a new measure to implement. And to sum up all these different clusters, we observed the significance and the need of sharing information across all these stakeholders. So we firstly went to reformulate our challenge to this point of view. How can we reposition living car-free as a default option when Stockholm residents rethink their daily travel habits?
Right. From this reformulated POV, we came up with a few concepts to address this. And our first concept was Trafika. It proposed community-focused events such as cargo bike tryouts that would bring multiple stakeholders together. These events could be hosted by the different stakeholders like housing associations, the residents themselves. This could potentially be a tool to community building, build community, and also to give ownership, where the residents could reclaim car-dominated spaces for themselves, at least for a limited time. But when we presented this, the housing associations and developers expressed that they currently organize similar events, but they expressed low turnout of residents to these events. Second concept was Gulay app. As we noted, there's an issue with residents not being aware of existing mobility measures at the housing or even how to book them. To address this, we came up with a shared resource platform where information could be made clearly available for residents. This platform could be introduced to new residents through a welcome letter, and they could go to an app where they could see what's available and book them. So Gulay app actually received positive responses because it also gave the residents ability to use other services such as laundry along with mobility measures in the building as well. The next concept we came up with was Replace, rethinking parking as people-first space. Replace challenges car-centric design by transforming parking areas into flexible, multi-purpose community spaces. Instead of being dark and underused parking zones dedicated to cars, these spaces we propose to be designed to support social, creative, and shared activities with parking accommodated only when needed. About Replace, when we presented it to our stakeholders, it was pointed to us that it could face legal barriers around required parking in Stockholm, and the housing company said they will not be keen on losing parking altogether because they would be losing revenue as well. And our last concept was Collab as a collaborative mandate. Collab is a housing association that brings all the stakeholders together, the planners, housing developers and companies, housing associations, not only that, the residents together and the mobility service providers as well, together to close the communication and the collaboration gap we saw earlier and establish clear responsibility for designing, implementing, monitoring, not only that, tailoring mobility measures for each housing. This showed promise, and Exploateringskontoret also further proposed this as a discussion forum between stakeholders, maintaining Exploateringskontoret's neutrality. But it was apparent that it could face institutional challenges and also operational challenges as well. It posed to produce long-term results and address systemic issues within the mobility provisioning in the housing development process itself. Due to this unique ability, we actually decided to move forward with this concept, Collab. Therefore, through testing and feedback we got, we continued to develop this Collab concept, where we understood that we needed to revisit our POV as well.
Exactly. So, we needed to rethink our POV because our earlier POV was mostly focused on residents and their mobility choices, but it honestly became very clear throughout our process that most of the problems don't start with the residents at all. They actually start earlier in the process on how mobility measures are planned, coordinated, and followed up. So we shifted our focus from changing individual behavior to looking at how the system itself supports and limits mobility choices. So we looked at the full housing development process, and we understand how long and hard to understand it was. So we understand it would be very hard to influence it as a whole. So we just decided to shift our focus at a clear weak link that we found. There was a very weak link between what happened after people moved into the new housing and the new ideas that would be accepted for the new housing developments. So we decided to shift our focus to turning the housing development process into a loop.
Yes. So how could this look like in practice? We have here three elements of the concept that are equally important. And the first is like, because of the insights show that there is a lack of information, that people sometimes live in these houses and don't even know that there are more living neighbors. It's a huge problem. So the concept is like could be a welcome letter. Here it's a suggestion of a welcome letter. So when you move in, you receive this letter, explain everything, so you onboard. So you avoid this information gap. The second element is the resident face interface. So here is where the residents can book their mobility measures, can get in, I can get information, and the design is inspired by the previous from the previous concept of Gulay. And lastly, but not least, is the digital report and follow-up system. So like this is to the Exploateringskontoret. So the idea is to collect this information, gather it, and they create a system, like a continuous system that will feed this, the database to collect and structure and reuse the insights for future projects. So, yeah, I explained a bit the welcome letter, and now.
Yes. Okay, so just not to give us a point. Now that we have a way to introduce the mobility measures, that people are aware, now we need to present mobility measures in a way that people are able to access them. So the primary way will be to use the application, because most of the housing associations are using the application, but the gap is that the information is not viewed well. So stay with me, keep your eyes on the solution. Rapid fire, let's go. So GoHive is the first interface where users get to interact with the system in first hand, and it functions as a central app where everything in the building is put in place, so nothing else is altered. But now what makes it different is that the mobility measures are fully integrated and visible to residents. So you get to see everything is still kept in place, it's done very well, but the thing is that once you launch is where you get to see the mobility measures and get to use them. And also the mobility measures are exposed directly into the homepage and into the mobility hub section, where everything in there is clearly organized in a way that it's very easy to understand, and then you get to see different types of mobility measures offered in that building. The app also gives the activity page where you get to see the previous associated mobility hub events, and also get to keep track of the activities done and the history of the interaction with the mobility measures. And in this part also we keep track of the feedback given, and bear in mind that the feedback given here is not only going to the housing association. This information is also kept so that the planners and developers will know exactly what was happening and what was breaking. So if there was many issues regarding one mobility measures, they'll keep in mind, okay, so maybe people are using this too much, that's why it's breaking or not, and etc. And from there, the Savithri report, Exploateringskontoret can do a follow-up on what's happening. So in here, you get to see the developer commitment, and users, the residents, will get to confirm that we were told there will be a parking space for these cars and bikes. Then they get to acknowledge what was happening in here. that was part one. Moving forward. So the general feedback was surprisingly promising from the sample size that we had. The general consensus was that usage was highly correlated to convenience and availability, and on the issue of data sharing, because the fear was if you are tracking movement, that's not good. So we are willing to share the usage information as long as the data doesn't confirm who we are, as long as we stay anonymous. So from there, this data has to be presented in a way that can be used and has a meaningful way. So we have the follow-up dashboard that provides a clear overview of what's happening for both planner, developer, and the housing association. And it does present key metrics such as car ownership, adoption of mobility measures, car substitution, and other miscellaneous metrics that can be used. And also, in here we have this clear chart that shows the breakdown for usage by age group, resident type, and also how different demographics engage with the mobility measure. And the data is presented in a user-friendly way, and also it can be exported in a simple format for people to digest well, so that you don't have to fiddle around with the dashboard. So in one summary, you get to see what's happening easily and shareable. And additionally, include frictional diagnostics that highlights what's happening from feedback, quality to usage patterns. And also there's spatial occupancy where the developers and housing association can compare between users of the traditional parking space and the mobility measures introduced. So overall, this ensures there's transparency and feedback loop, and it does help to optimize the solution effectively. That's part two. There's more. So, so from here, we have like emergent deliverable. So we see that now you do have mobility measure, and how can you practically use this information? So we had one approach of presenting how we can use this information, where we built the mobility catalog as a natural outcome for the data collected from the housing app. So the catalog compiled all the deployed mobility measures, providing detailed insights and in a standardized template. So let's say in a building, kit by tricycle was introduced well. So here users can see the entire project lifecycle from location, planning, construction, pre-occupancy, and also ongoing operation, both short-term and long-term. This is all collected from previous developers who constructed this, and they noted down what happened. So this way, whoever wants to build further can use this template and go on. Additionally, they include all the admin work like governance, finance, compliance, design, and technical details, and etc. In this way, the catalog ensures that the planners and developers have a solid reference point, allowing them to back up their decisions with clear and life-based experiences and evidence. So this way, we don't have to get the conflicts anymore. So from here, there's also more.
Well, we've said data insights several times, and I don't know if you've been thinking that way, but at least for us, it's been very clear that our solution has been inspired by design thinking. So Collab is a user-involved, iterative process that seeks to understand, define, create, evaluate solutions that are meaningful. So it's a loop of continuous feedback and iteration, just like the double diamond, leading to more informed choices, clearer ownership, and shared responsibilities for long-term success. So these are very clear benefits, and if you're curious about the potential costs, we put that in the report, so feel free to deep dive in there. So to conclude, we started off thinking that our challenge was about creating a new, exciting mobility solution that would convert all residents in Stockholm into carless mobility heroes. But as we've illustrated, our point of view shifted. The success of mobility measures is far less dependent on the novelty and far more on how the mobility measures are integrated maintained, and evaluated over time. So understanding the context in which mobility measures are being implemented, both local and systemic, is essential. Thank you, guys, from us. And if you want to take a deeper dive into our prototypes, please scan the QR code, and we are now open to questions and comments.